Hi, I'm Juro, and this is Moreno Morena Presents, a podcast where I interview different, interesting people every week to hopefully shed light on what it means to be a dark-skinned Filipino. Today I'm talking to Ayn Bernos, founder of Morena the Label, founder of Ideologie Studio, and co-host of Camp Confidence Radio. We talk about harnessing validation, the power of the consumer, grabbing opportunities, and more. Don't forget to follow Moreno Morena on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to Moreno Morena Presents on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. Thanks and enjoy the interview. Hi, Ayn.
Hi, Juro.
Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So when I Google Ayn Bernos, the first thing that comes up
Oh my
was
God.
Ayn Bernos' age. So my first question is...
Talaga?
Yeah, it is age. So my first question is, what is Ayn Bernos' age?
That's so funny. I'm 25, but a lot of people think, at least on the internet, they assume I'm 19, 18. Wow. Yeah.
I don't know why that comes up. But you know why the age thing comes up, or not really?
I think it's because I post a lot of independent stuff, like me traveling alone, and I have a very young face, so a lot
Yeah.
of people think I'm this young girl
Uh-huh.
doing some odd independent stuff, but I feel like it's fine for my age. I'm 25 and it's just age appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess the appeal of being such a young go-getter and like jet setter is there then.
Yeah.
And other
Yeah, but
things
unfortunately,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying I'm just 25 and that's it. It's not that exciting.
Okay, yeah, nothing controversial. So
Not
hopefully
anything controversial.
the top Google search will change soon.
That's so funny. I didn't even know about that.
So another thing I found on my research was that you used to have a travel blog or a blog in general. And I say used to because when I checked it out, I think the last post was from 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct. It's so hard to maintain a blog, especially, I don't know, I feel like blogs are so high maintenance and nobody really goes to the website that often anyway. I mostly do it for myself. Yeah.
So it's more like at this point, it's more like a personal diary, travel diary.
Kind of, yeah. And also it helps with SEO. So for example, for my travel videos, I would maybe sometimes write about a blog about, let's say, how to teach in Spain. And then that really helped all my other YouTube videos. So that's why I still keep it up. That's why I still have the blog, even though I'm debating whether or not to still keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just recently learned about all the digital marketing stuff like SEO and all that. Right? I don't know if you saw, but I posted on Facebook that I finished this free Google course on digital marketing.
What was it called?
Fundamentals
just
of
digital
digital
marketing.
marketing. Yeah, super
That's
basic.
awesome.
I know. So I'm also trying to come up with a website, but we'll see how that pans out because it's a lot of work then. And I didn't expect it to pile up so fast, like the podcast and then website. And
I know. You're doing so much.
I'm trying, yeah. The first couple months of the quarantine was pretty slow and trying to find my
yeah.
groove. But yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, I was gonna ask where you take your online courses because I've been also trying to get into those.
The one I took for digital marketing was the one by Google. So it's pretty, I think it was a pretty decent course for like the surface and the basic digital marketing stuff. And I'd highly recommend it since it applies to freelance work and I got a lot of information I could
Nice.
use for Moreno Morena. Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's awesome. I've been taking courses from Coursera. They're
Uh-huh.
also free, so I just love free stuff. So good to know.
Yeah, definitely. And what have you learned so far? Because I also found your LinkedIn and you have a very impressive resume. I don't know how often you get to update that, but it's very substantial, if I could say so. What did I see? I saw lots of courses on communication, fashion communication, communication for PR and advertising, some digital marketing,
Yes.
lots of writing gigs.
That's so funny. Yeah, so the courses on digital marketing, blah blah blah. Those were in 2016, I think, because I talked my parents out of me going to law school. I realized that wasn't for me. So I made this whole pitch about what if instead of going to law school, I take a summer course in London instead.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about. That was a really fun time. I love learning. So I really appreciated that I got to pick my subjects and I got to specialize in those things. So now, yeah, I think it's sulit because I still use it to this day.
Yeah, it seems like a really good arsenal to have for a content creator and a vlogger as such as yourself. And when you
Hirap na label.
well, it's a lot. Yeah, it was. I was very impressed. It was like a wall of accomplishments and just amazing. Yeah, very inspiring.
It's also the indecisiveness, when you're a creative and you kind of want to do everything. And since you don't have it's not like with doctors or lawyers, it's just one path. If you're a creative and then you have the internet, it's such a wide space and you can do practically anything. That's what happens. I think that's what is ending up happening with all of us.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, lots of my friends have also been doing the same kind of creating content and then learning what they can on the fly and then picking up bits and pieces of how they can elevate their content creatorship. I think there should be a word for that.
Yeah.
And
what is it?
Yeah, because I talked to Trish and I was having a hard time to find the word for it. Like it would always take the verb like creating content, but I think there should be like a ship.
It should be an industry, yeah.
Yeah, right.
We'll figure out a word for that eventually.
Yes. When I was looking at your educational background, your work career background, I was curious as to when did the whole Morena the Label or dark skin advocacy come about? Was it around the time you were doing your courses in London or during the time you were in school or?
Yeah, actually it was when I was in UST for my thesis, my 4th year in English. So my degree is in English language studies, which is basically linguistics. And I wrote a paper on colorism and advertising. So colorism in the Philippines and Pond's Philippines ads. So that was interesting because I was really able to study not just colorism from my perspective, because obviously as a Morena myself, I have my personal experiences, but to see it outside and also from a research perspective, that really got me interested in the whole that whole, I don't know, body of knowledge. And so that's where my advocacy really started. But I didn't start Morena the Label until 2018. So it was like 3 years of me creating content and then 3 years of me just talking about it. But the clothing brand itself was launched in 2018. Yeah.
So in the 3 years before you started Morena the Label, what were the like turning points or triggers that steered your mind towards wanting to do something about colorism, about being Morena?
Well, so first off, I think right out of college, I started working and then I started writing. So I would do blogs for companies, etc. But other than that, I would also write for myself. So I remember I submitted this opinion piece to Rappler. It was about, stop colorism, like my personal story. And then I was so surprised because they actually published it. I was in school then, so I was kind of shocked that anyone would publish my work.
Yeah.
So when that went not necessarily viral, but it got some traction, and I got a few messages from readers of Rappler, and I realized there was something there that I wasn't alone in that experience, and so I wanted to share more of that side of me. So while I was doing my digital marketing job, I also started my YouTube channel. So in my YouTube channel, I made Morena the Label. Sorry, not Morena the Label. I mean Morena tutorials. So I made those, and even though I wasn't very good at makeup, my audience appreciated that I was a brown girl who was talking about makeup. So that was fun. And then after that, I went to London for 3 months, I believe. And that's when I really gained confidence in my skin. Because before that, I was still struggling, with acceptance. I knew that I wanted to like my skin color, but I didn't fully like it yet. But when I moved to London for the summer, I just felt the difference in how I was treated and how my skin color was regarded. For some reason, everybody loved my tan.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I was so not used to that reaction. A lot of people would compliment me for my skin color. And it was just such a new concept that it really, really boosted my confidence. So when I came back after that, that's when I started growing into the confidence that I have now, but it still, it still took a lot of time. So it wasn't overnight and it wasn't just because of me going abroad, but yeah, definitely throughout those 3 years, it was a slow process. And the more I talked about it and the more I shared about it, the more I was able to reinforce that belief that Morena skin is really beautiful and nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can kind of see similarities between how Morena the Label and Moreno Morena started. Because in my case, it was also...
Yeah, how was yours?
When I first published the photos I made, the ones with the red background, when it was just my friends who I got as models to model for me. Yeah, it was after those photos kind of went viral on Twitter, and then I saw the very big response, and it really resonated with people. Like, people would quote tweet how it was such an amazing project and how good it looked. And yeah, I think the outward support I got from, I think, strangers especially, was kind of the tipping point for me to realize, like, hey, there's something here. I think I should pursue it, because it would be a shame not to see this potential through.
For sure. Isn't it weird na when we're doing something and we do believe in what we're working on, when we receive that external validation, it really, that's when you parang reinforce that, okay, this is doable and we can really, there's something here. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine what it would be like, or I can't imagine what it would be like if we constantly got that validation from outside. Like, what if growing up we got that same validation for our dark skin? But I don't know. I don't know how it was for you. How was it like with the family? Was there compliments, insults?
I really didn't like my skin color. So actually, I was a swimmer growing up. So I'm morena now, but when I was growing up, I was even more morena. As in, like, I look at my picture when I was younger. I'm looking at it now. It's funny. I always have it in front of my desk because I want to see. I like seeing that picture of me. And I was like maybe 10 times my dad's color, like 10 times darker than my dad. And my dad is pretty brown.
Yeah.
So growing up, I actually quit swimming because, I was always getting darker and I didn't want to be morena anymore. So I definitely thought I was inferior by default.
Yeah.
So for example, I remember there was one time during math class, I was in 3rd grade, and then we were lined up for my teachers. I think she was checking our homework, and then the 3 girls in front of me in line, they were all chinita. And then the teacher was in such a good mood, and she was complimenting all of my classmates about their skin. They were like, the teacher was like, "Oh, you're so makinis. Take care of your skin, okay?" She was saying those things like, "You're so makinis. You're so beautiful. Take care of your skin. Like, when you grow old, make sure you do this, do that." So I was like, "Wow, why is she being so nice today? Is she, because this is like a suplada teacher." So I was really shocked that she was being nice to all of the kids in front of me. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for my compliment for today. And then I get to her. She doesn't even look at me. She doesn't even look at me or smile. And then I realized, parang I was a very young kid and I didn't really know the concept of who's pretty, who's not, or who's special, who isn't. But then that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm invisible.
Oh no.
So even though it wasn't explicit, I I was hyper aware of how people treated me differently from my peers who were lighter skinned.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is, do you know Linggo ng Wika, you have the mutya. I don't know, did you have that in school? Because you went to an all-boys school, right?
No, we didn't have that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so during Linggo ng Wika, we would have a mutya. So it's like a muse or a representative of the batch. And every year for Linggo ng Wika, the one representing our batch would be the super mestiza looking classmate of mine.
Oh, was it the same person all the time? Or like every year?
No, it wasn't the same person. They all looked the same basically.
Okay.
Everyone who represented our batch every year, they looked the same. Like light skin, mestiza, almost brown hair. So I wanted to be the mutya. I've always wanted to be the mutya, but I was never considered for any of those. Like nobody ever asked us, who wants to volunteer? There was no such thing as volunteering. It was more of the teachers get to pick who's representing us. So yeah, now that I'm talking about it, I realize I'm kind of bitter about that. I wish they asked us because I would have volunteered. Yeah, so I definitely felt that way growing up. And I guess that's why I'm very passionate about encouraging and empowering younger morenas because I don't want them to feel like they're not made for these opportunities just because they look the way they do.
Yeah.
And I definitely carried that throughout college. Even with auditions, there was a time that I didn't show up for my audition because my confidence was really low and I thought I was just not good enough, period. So yeah, I do sometimes wonder what would it have been like if I weren't tan growing up or if I was encouraged as a morena girl.
Yeah, I don't know, thinking back to your stories, that's pretty heavy stuff for a kid. Did you say you were like third grade, fifth grade?
Third grade.
Yeah,
I was very introspective.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff for a kid to be thinking about. Like, why am I invisible and why don't these people consider me as... Yeah, that's kind of scary to be honest.
I know. Did you feel that way? You went to an all-boys school. How was it like if, I feel like all girls because it's very appearance-oriented. What was it like with yours?
I think in my case and in my experience, the teasing was more outward. Nothing as insidious as the teacher not complimenting me for my skin color because that's pretty crazy. But yeah, the teasing was more outward. Of course, we had to take everything as a joke. Like we couldn't get really bitter about it because it's I don't know. At least for guys, it would be a weird thing to retaliate to. I'm not sure of the preposition, but yeah, it'd be weird to retaliate. And I don't know if ever I did like try to fight back or insult back or claw my way out of the pit of self-esteem that was being dug up for me the whole time. I don't know, I just tried not to make it a big deal and I just focused on developing those coping mechanisms, just trying to keep it bottled in, And then I think the turning point for all that was when I decided to start Moreno Morena, when I was equipped with these creative skills. And yeah, that's where I channeled all the bottled up wanting to retaliate, wanting to do something against the bullies and all that.
The thing is, when you look at photos produced in the commercial space and the media or mainstream media, they don't ever give that opportunity to Morena girls. And even when they do, they lighten their color, which is why I think Moreno Morena is so cool because you accentuate the brownness, which is something you don't see in the Philippines. Like nobody wants to accentuate being brown, which is weird.
Yeah, I know. I kind of wanted to, like even as a way to protest, I intentionally made some of the skin colors even darker because like who in the right mind in the Philippines would want to make their skin darker? Isn't the norm like making your skin lighter or fair? So yeah, that's part of why it looks the way it looks. So anyways, going back to the history behind Morena the Label and your whole advocacy, you were a writer for a couple media outlets, right?
Yes, I did a lot of freelancing.
And another thing I got from your LinkedIn was that you were a writer for Cosmo and then Candy.
Yes. So actually, for the candy thing, I was their freelance social media, I don't know, content creator,
Mm-hmm.
manager. I handled their Facebook for a while. It was one of my side hustles. And then for Cosmo as well, I was freelance writing for them. At first it was fashion, and then I started writing about Morena stuff.
Yeah, on your Cosmo author profile, I saw lots of articles about being Morena, like the makeup tips, and I saw that one article you featured me on. Yeah, that was really fun doing that. Thank you for asking me to do that.
Thank you for doing that, because the reason why I wanted to write that article is, I, as a Morena myself, I realized that my number one concern was with the filters that I had on Visco, ganyan. Almost everything was built to lighten my skin
Mm-hmm.
somehow. So even when I was trying my best to be this proud Morena on the internet, I could not use the filters
Yeah.
to accentuate my skin. So I needed a professional opinion on that. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that interview.
Yeah, that's also crazy to think about how the filters we have on our photo apps were influenced by colorism and colonization back then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember like the metaphor I gave in the VH1 radio show we did. The one about
Yes.
the Devil Wears Prada and
Yeah.
how the
The ano
actions
yan?
of some people,
On top.
yeah, and then it trickles down to us, and then we're so unaware of the origins of everything.
Exactly. So even the simple filter stuff, I mean, the people who had those made and the influences are, it's still from a place where we're used to those beauty ideologies. We're used to a certain standard of beauty, and those are decisions made by people who are in charge of the industry. So while we think now, oh, it just happens, it's actually not that. It's not true, because some people make those decisions consciously, and it trickles down to the rest of us who
Yeah.
use the media and consume it.
Yeah, and then sometimes those conscious decisions of favoring fair skin are just so
Mhm.
ingrained in some people's behavior and just the way they think. Like
Yeah,
it's kind
that's
of
just the way it is.
I know it's so sad, but then that's why we're here trying to make a difference.
And we are.
I
I think
know.
so. I like
Hopefully,
to think so.
yeah, it's going. The progress is really showing, I think. And yeah, going back to your writing gigs, I want to know if, since Red Cosmos a pretty big fashion media presence in the Philippines, I think.
Mhm.
Did you ever come
Yeah.
across like colorism in that world, like the fashion, editorial, publishing world?
I guess it's kind of weird, because before I was doing all of this media work, I would go to VTRs and I would audition for stuff, but then I wouldn't be able to get into those because obviously I don't look the part.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually I just stopped auditioning. But then on the other hand, I have been, like, in the last maybe 2-3 years, I've been recruited for some commercials or some brand videos, and the reason why I'm being casted is sometimes because of my morena-ness, and
Mm-hmm.
it's usually a diversity campaign.
Yeah.
So I've noticed the transition from not considering morenas at all to now using morenas as a diversity
Yeah.
plus point for their brand, which I think is I mean, yeah, that's a step in the right direction, but
Mhm.
sometimes I still wonder, but it's just me and my assumptions and my my own thoughts. Sometimes I wonder if the higher ups really do believe that
Yeah.
brown skin is beautiful, or do they use that to be inclusive because inclusive is a trend. So
Yeah.
that's something that I think about a lot. But we don't have the answers.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's nice and all to be considered for something, but then if you find out that you're just there to like check a box or fulfill a requirement of inclusivity or diversity, it kind of makes the whole thing seem disingenuous, and I don't know, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Sometimes you can see it with how people treat you, because there are some brands that are they actually mean what they say when they say they want to be more diverse in their campaigns. But then there are brands, for example, who would, in the shoot, they would hire a Morena person, or they would cast a Morena person, but then they would edit the photos to make it a little lighter. So
Oh,
in that
no.
sense, it's kind of like, why did you get me? Is it just what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? Exactly. So now we're gonna just name a couple of those brands who are disingenuous. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not get in trouble for that.
Well, I do have one that, I'm not involved with them, but the Gluta thing? What was that? Glutamax?
Glutamax? Yeah.
That was it's public knowledge, so I think we can talk about it. But their campaign where they said, parang, isn't it unfair, or unfair, diba?
Yeah, unfair,
something
diba?
like
Yeah.
that. Ugh, that was so annoying, because they were trying to empower Morenas, but also by saying, but use Gluta.
I know.
That was so like, what?
I think, the intent was there, but then the execution was kind of iffy. No, it was pretty iffy. And just remembering.
Like, every time I think about that, I'm like, who said this was a good idea? Who approved this?
I wonder if there were any Moreno or Morena people in the creative team behind that, or like in the brand.
See, the thing is, sometimes did you ever work in like an advertising agency, like that agency life?
Just an internship, so that was barely agency life.
I wasn't part of like the big industry, but I've had a taste of it. And what I noticed is, no matter what the employees or like the creatives say, sometimes at the end of the day, it's the client.
Yeah, the client
who decides. It's really the client. So sometimes, even if the team pushes back, if the decision makers don't agree with you, there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes the whole consumer group to complain in order for them to realize, oh, we're wrong. So I think that's what happened, with the backlash on Twitter. Everyone was so mad. So I think maybe they learned their lesson.
Yes,
it's a good lesson.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully.
And I think, the silver lining to them fumbling that whole stunt was, just us realizing how it's really the consumers that have the power in the end. And now with all the social media and being able to interact with all these brands, you get to like really voice your opinions on like, hey, this thing is kind of weird. Maybe don't do it again, or think of a better message.
It's so cool how you really see the effect. Especially lately, there's been a huge increase in darker shades of makeup. So that's another thing that is very consumer centric, because before, when people didn't have social media and we couldn't be vocal about liking our skin color, they just assumed that Filipinos won't buy dark foundation shades. So that's why they didn't have it here, which is so weird considering we're a brown country.
I know. Eventually I'll try to see what strings I can pull to get like higher ups of like brand stuff or like advertising people on the podcast, because I'd really want to know, or like interview them on how like what the thought process is, what is it like in the pitch meetings and all that.
For my thesis, I interviewed a couple of advertising, I don't know, executives. What is it na parang especially behind the old skin whitening ads, and they know what they were implying. They knew, at least in 2015, they knew that it was bad, that they were putting forward this kind of beauty standard that was unrealistic. But at the same time, they felt like, at least in 2015, I'm not saying it's the same situation now in 2020, but then they knew what it was doing to Morenas, and they knew that it was the way to sell, unfortunately. So they really were doing it to sell at that point. But luckily, things are changing and people are becoming more conscious about how they present beauty and skin color. etc.
Yeah, I kind of want to see if, yeah, like I said earlier, if there are any dark-skinned ad people or brand people who work for these
Mm-hmm.
whitening brands or wellness brands. It would be interesting, like to get their take on if,
What's it like?
yeah, like do I get torn by what I believe in, or do I just follow the client and all that? But yeah, it's scary to think about. I don't know what they go through. I'm sure it's a root for so many internal conflicts.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any Morena role models?
Yes, I do. So my number one is Bianca Gonzalez, who
Uh-huh.
was my TV idol growing up because she was a TV presenter, a VJ, and she was proudly morena. She was one of the few who was actually brown, and she talked about it openly. So growing up, I wanted to be like her so bad. It was possible for her, and maybe it could be possible for me too. Yeah, so she's my childhood idol. Right now, though, I also really like Riza Manankil Trillo. She's the
Hmm.
founder of Happy Skin. She's
Oh, okay.
another
Right, right.
proud Morena
Nice.
in a position of power.
Yeah, that's so cool. And yeah, I've been seeing Happy Skin a lot. And I think you did mention that when we and Trish talked about our plans as Moreno
Yes.
creators. Yeah, Happy Skin. And being such a big
You know,
online.
Juro,
Oh, yeah,
my
go ahead.
dream. No, I was just saying because we have you, Trish, me, and we're like in our 20s, and we talk about this, blah blah blah. But I envision one day when we're all in a position of power and we get to make the decisions.
Yep.
Like, wouldn't that be so cool?
I know. I think that would be the most ideal future for the movement. Being such a big online presence, I'm sure you have lots of younger followers, younger people who look up to you. Do you get lots of messages about you being a source of empowerment and having the influence you have?
Yeah, for sure. I get a lot of Instagram DMs. Sometimes I would get anonymous emails, and I think it's so encouraging, and it just makes me want to work even harder to continue doing this because sometimes, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think I've gotten to a place in my Morena journey, my acceptance journey where I really do appreciate my skin color and I do feel confident about it. And sometimes when I'm by myself, I feel like, am I talking about this too much? Is this too much? Am I being in everybody's faces just because I am being confident in my skin color? But then I read messages from my younger followers who tell me that I've helped them embrace their skin color as well. And I realized that just because I'm already confident in my skin color doesn't mean it's the same for everybody. Therefore, I should keep talking about it and we should keep talking about it because, confidence again is contagious. And the more vocal we are, the more we help other people embrace their own skin as well. So, definitely. I love reading those messages, and I hope we can continue what we do because the more confident morenos and morenas out there we have, the easier the mission will be. Wow, mission.
Yes. Basically, in that scenario, it's kind of like we're the people holding the torch for maybe the later generation. Saying we didn't reach
Yes.
an earlier wave of it, and then we would be the ones enjoying the benefits of whoever it was made the effort. But I don't know, it's nice.
That's
It's nice.
true. We're part of the revolution.
I know. I really like the shoot. I'm trying to remember the title of the V81 radio show. Something to that effect. The revolution of
Yes,
something like that. It made it sound so big and
something about making a
intimidating.
difference.
Yes,
Making a
yes, yes.
difference. Right?
Shoot,
That's it.
that was a pretty good thing to end on. But then wait, I have another question.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, right. What's next for Morena the Label? Since right now we know it's a pretty big operation for brown skin, love, and the merch around that. Yeah. So what's the dream for Morena the Label? What's the dream for you and the whole advocacy of loving one's skin?
Well, I really wanted to, because right now we started with statement tees and whatnot. So I kind of want to evolve it into a more sustainable fashion brand. So more streetwear. I'm thinking of redoing the designs and the way we sell our clothes and how we source and everything. I'm just trying to learn because we're producing in house now. So I want it to be more global, or at least quality wise it's easy to export, it's easy to sell outside of the Philippines. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I noticed, because we're so vocal on the internet, we have been getting a lot of attention from the States because Filipinos are everywhere. And
Yes,
it's
yes.
the Morena thing, the colorism issue is not just a Filipino thing. In our recent post, we've got a couple of Mexicans who
Nice.
commented, and they were like, we experienced the same thing in Mexico. And also, my Mexican friends feel the same way. And I'm also called exotic, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool. But more than that, I want to gear towards education more.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to put out more educational content so that people can not just feel empowered, but they can also understand why colorism is the way it is. I don't think we talk about it enough. So hopefully in the future, we can have more discussions like this. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll continue our Cuentong Morena
Yeah, I know.
series that we talked about. Hopefully that can happen. Maybe even a conference or a panel, or it's just making the community even stronger so we can feel the effects in real life. So hopefully it's not just the social media movement.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully one day we can all see this in person. Hopefully. Ang dami kong hope eh.
That's
when
fine.
when COVID is done, we can all be together in person, and this can be an in-person effort, community effort. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like you're doing a lot in your time right now during the quarantine and the pandemic to really try to build your brand, and it's awesome seeing like just the growing potential of everything. And yeah, hoping for the best.
Thank you, Juro. Isn't it nice that we're all connected at this beginning stage where we're all kind of starting out and building our brands?
Yes, it's
And
it's pretty
then,
cool.
like, give us 10, 15 years, and then we can look back at this and be like, wow, we started there.
I know. I can't wait to look back on these days.
Me too.
And then I can't imagine like what if we have like super high production podcast and media
Yeah.
stuff now, and then looking back at this, it's so makeshift and
Yeah. We're
do
all
it
just trying to
yourself.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's part of it.
That's part of it. And it's a good story, too. It's a good origin story.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so I think we could end there. That was a pretty good conversation about what's going on in your life and
And the colorism movement,
yeah.
the Moreno movement.
Is there anything you want to plug?
Yes, please check out Morena the Label on Instagram. That's Morena the Label. And you can order our merch at Ideologie Studio if you guys are interested.
Nice. And where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Yeah, you can find me everywhere. That's just Ayn Bernos, Aynbernos. Don't get lost.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much again, Ayin.
Thank you for having me, Juro. We did it.